Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Infrastructure Committee. Welcome to those in the chamber, and welcome to those of you who are watching from home. We have two apologies, one from Panya Cook and one from Rangi Pottinger.
And Mayor Clark.
And also one from Mayor Clark.
I'll move those.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. We have no attendees on Zoom today, and we have no one on public forum. So we can start into the agenda. And the first item is the minutes of the Waste Advisory Group meeting on the 11th of December. Barry, I think you move. Thank you. Seconded. Is there a seconder?
Very formal.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Then we have the meetings of the Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 13th of February. I will chair those. I will move those. And Barry seconded. Any discussion? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Takes us to tab 6, which is temporary road closures, the St Patrick's Day Family Gala.
Prepared to move the recommendations.
Well, give Doug a chance to sit down at least.
Not a lot to say, really.
Yeah.
It's good that it's back in Esk
Sure,
Street.
Mr. Chairman.
But just in case, Doug, is there anything you want to add to the paper, which is self-explanatory?
It is self-explanatory, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we already have a mover. Is there a seconder? Yeah. Thank you, Ria. Is there any discussion? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Takes us to the temporary road closure Anzac Day. Doug, any other comments other than what's in the paper?
No, I don't think so. The road closure was 10 till 5 p.m, but the event itself was 12 till 3, so it's set up and clean up at the end of the day.
Okay. Ria, you have a question?
Sorry, which event are you talking about, Doug?
I think you're at the wrong event.
I think you'll find Anzac's a little earlier in the day.
Yeah, I was going to say 10 till 3.
Anzac
Sorry,
Day
I've
is-
moved on to the next point.
Okay.
Missed it.
Well, am I wrong or are you wrong? I think I'm.
Prove that we're listening.
Happy to move Anzac Day.
Chris.
So, is your question about the Anzac Day, Maria? So,
Yes, it is. I note that this paper for this year isn't much different to that we had come across our table last year. Yet we had a question about the traffic management plan, and it was moved to public excluded for whatever reason. So I'm assuming that that's been completely addressed for this year. The issue that arose from this last year, and that's
Through,
been fixed in the background.
through the chair, I can only assume it has, man. I did not know that something difficult with traffic management occurred last year.
so
It's certainly not been
Erin,
brought to
do
my
you
attention.
want to comment?
Michael's going to comment.
Through self-chair, there's a slight change to the provider in relation to this particular year, so we've switched to a provision from Great South, and that plan has come through to our roading team from a traffic management perspective. Sorry, I shouldn't say Great South, through our governance team, so it's more an in-house
Great. Yep.
supported process, but we do have a managed health and safety plan from ourselves in relation to that, so we follow the same processes as well.
That's fantastic. That just clarifies
Okay
that
with
for
that
me.
response, Ria?
Yes, you're very happy.
Any other questions?
You're still looking for a seconder?
Have we got a?
Happy to move.
Okay, thank
Please
you.
be moved.
Second, Dan, seconded. Any other questions? If not, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. So that takes us to tab 8, which is the Yarra Street, Lindisfarne Street intersection upgrade that we have in these papers, but we also had in the papers last time. And just for those who may not have been, particularly in live stream, may not have heard last time, we did receive this paper last time. We approved option 1, but we asked that you bring back that you think about whether the platform in the intersection was appropriate, and that you bring back a recommendation based on some evidence of whether it should be included or not. So I guess particularly you want to talk about that, Doug, but you might also mention you did go and talk to the residents because are the shop owners, because that was a concern last time. So anyway, those 2 points, you don't need to talk about the whole of option one. I think those are the 2 points that you were asked to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In terms of the residents, yes, we've spoken individually. I've spoken with them personally as well. There was one issue I think I raised last time, which was the loss of parking for the kebab shop. We've managed to give him an alternative option, which is in Lindisfarne Street, just on the other side of his shop. So we've managed, he actually gets in one extra park there, a short-term parking for people that are coming in and dropping off, and he's reasonably satisfied with that. So we solved that small problem.
So before you move on to the platform, does anybody have any questions about the discussion with the shopkeepers? Is everybody now comfortable that that's been done?
Will that be
Trish.
signed?
Yes, it'll be signed. It'll be, depending on what we talk to, depending on what the shop needs, if the P5, P10, we'll work through that with the shopkeeper.
Well done, that's good.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah,
Grant first.
yeah, thanks, Chair. So with respect to Lindisfarne, is that the northern side of Yarrow Street?
I'm reasonably new to Invercargill, so
Yeah,
I'm
so-
trying to orientate
Well,
myself. It's on the
is-
left-hand side as you're heading up.
On the map.
Yeah. So what you're proposing is, I think there's about a 30-metre yellow no parking line there currently. So post that, there would be a park for 10 minutes.
Yeah, we'll bring then. What we're doing is adjusting what we do there. So we're not making any less safe. We're just moving things down a bit. So that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. So have we talked to the residents in the houses about the impact of that on them? Because they would probably consider that they've got free parking directly outside their house. So have you talked to them?
Yeah, we're not going to go that far down, Council. We have talked to the residents, and also the shop owners have talked to the residents as well. So part of our original consultation covered that whole area.
Yeah, so sorry, when you say you don't go any further down, if you go to the intersection, there's a dotted no parking line for about 30 metres, right, and then residential parking beyond that. So if we come in and put a 10-minute loading, well, not loading zone, it won't be, but 10-minute parking stint there, then that is going to affect those residents.
No, it'll be past. What we're going to be doing is where the yellow lines are, they're not entirely necessary.
Oh, right, so you're
Right,
shortening
so
the
we're
yellow lines.
shortening that up
Right.
with the new design of the intersection.
Right, okay. And that's got no impact on safety.
None at all. No.
Okay.
Makes you wonder what
Alan?
they're already then, doesn't it?
So,
Yeah, that's sort of what my question is actually. I think
sorry, Alan. Before Doug, would you mind pulling the microphone a little closer?
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
struggling to hear you actually. But Alan, your question.
yeah, I just look at the whole intersection thing, and even the fact that you're now talking about having a park just around the corner there in Lindisfarne Street. That seems to me that if you can do that, if you can redesign things, why couldn't you redesign the whole thing instead of having to lose all the parking from really from the house before the shops, and then and the same was not quite so far on that Lindisfarne side. Why does it have to angle in so far? I mean, why can't you just, if I go around in the car, which I've been doing obviously continuously, I notice that many intersections don't have that cycle lane, and also with the cycle lane being so prominent there, there are no schools or anything in that direction.
Oh my God. Sorry.
Well, I'm sorry.
No,
Well, I
carry
go
on.
past you,
Alan.
I never ever see any cyclists. I've never seen a cyclist on the cycle lanes there. There are no schools on Yarra Street.
I think though, Alan, that we debated this last time, and I think we did approve option one, including the cycle lanes, and the two questions that Doug was asked to go and consider was the one about shopkeepers and their situation, and also the question of the platform. So
Yeah, but I think you'll remember, Mr. Chair, that I did not. I
No,
voted against it, and I voted against
I
it
know
for the
you
same
did.
reason I'm probably going to vote against it today. I just don't think it's been very well done. I think it's quite a poor example of what you can do with an intersection.
no, yeah, I do recall you spoke against it last time, and you know,
I just think it could
but
be done
I don't
so much
want to
better.
relitigate the whole thing again. I just want to.
Well, this is what we're going to do though, because from here it goes to a full council meeting. So I'm just making
Well,
myself.
I mean, this meeting is really just to confirm the two questions that we asked Doug to go and consider. So, Doug, do you want to move to the platform now and talk about that?
Certainly, we did consider taking the platform out, but the reason for it is to reduce speed. And whilst we did look at other options, it is our strong preference that the platform remains, and that is our recommendation.
So, I mean, there'll be questions, and I'm sure. Let me ask you two before we open it up. So the first one is, can you just confirm that this is at the discretion of council? That we are actually, there is no legal obligation to include the platform, and that neither is funding dependent on it?
Certainly funding is not dependent on it. It is a design standard that is recommended when we do these sort of...
Yeah, it's recommended, it's not a requirement.
Not a requirement.
No, I mean, that's what... And the second thing, there are many, I don't know, I'm guessing number, maybe 20 intersections around Invercargill that would be basically the same design as this one. If we include a platform on these, and this set of lights, will that not, and let's just suppose we agree that it is safer to have that. I don't know if we do, but let's just suppose we do. Would that not then obligate us to think about all of them?
Mr. Chairman, yes, it would. Yeah, I believe that we're going to be consistent. We should be consistent across, and I think if you look at other examples, certainly I know of in Dunedin, they are fairly regularly put in, and other cities which I've given you a couple of examples of, it is a standard design practice to reduce speed when you're negotiating through a reasonable volume traffic signal intersection.
I don't think the city's in any way averse to these kind of measures. I mean, we've agreed to put them in Windsor and in South City. Even S Street actually has got a raised platform. We have agreed to speed limits around schools and significantly reduced the speed limit around the city as a whole. So I mean, I think we are, as a city, in the last few years, made significant changes to. This one's goes a bit further. This is about putting a platform in a main thoroughfare. But anyway, open up to questions. Grant, did you put your hand up?
Yeah. Look, I'm supportive of the change at the intersection in terms of the lights, but I'm not supportive of the speed bump. And you look at the example that you've put up. It's a T intersection, so it's a fundamentally different intersection to this one. This is a major arterial route both ways. There's a lot of traffic goes both ways through this, and if you look at a couple of examples in Windsor, where I live, and I often see cars going down there for whatever reason, and they hit the speed bump there too fast. And if you talk to trucking industry, which will use this intersection, if a large truck hits those speed bumps, they are at risk, if they're going at 50 k's an hour, of potentially getting out of control. And it's just, it seems to me that we're trialling something where we shouldn't be. If you look at the Queen's Drive Gala Street intersection, inadvertently we designed up a speed bump there, and you watch cars go over there, and if they go through there at 50 kilometres an hour, and that's not a major arterial route, but often cars do go through there, they get what I would consider close to being out of control. And you think about, we've got an elderly population, ageing population, let's say. We've got a lot of young drivers that use that intersection because they're heading through to the sports turfs or the stadium in some cases. And I just think we're just actually creating issues by putting a 75mm speed bump in the middle of a 50k zone where cars will be going through this intersection in both ways 50 kilometres an hour. And we're then asking them to slow down when they're thinking about getting through the lights and causing all sorts of issues. So look, I just cannot see the sense in us experimenting at this intersection with a speed hump. And would we put it in others? Would we go down to the Isabella intersection and put it in there? Would we come back this way and put it into Queen's Drive?
So I think that's probably rhetorical, that question, isn't it? Ria, you were next, and then Evelyn.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug, for bringing us the information that you've provided us for the safety raised platform information. I support what Grant's saying, actually. A couple of reasons is, have we done a traffic count on that particular intersection? Because when I look at the reason for why the platform will go there, I'm interested in the traffic count, whether it's cars or trucks on there. It says through here that the raised platform will reduce speed down to 30 k's per hour, but that's actually a 50 k per hour thoroughfare both ways. I happen to have someone that is a truck driver that went down that street and was really concerned when I mentioned that that would be a raised platform. But then living in Windsor, people treat those raised platforms like they're actually pedestrian crossings. So I'm really quite cautious about the fact that we could be adding to some serious confusion. I'm much more in support of having a pre-indicator for warning that slow down for your speed, there is change lighting ahead. That seems to me to be more realistic and more practical than having raised bumps that will cause confusion with pedestrians, with truck drivers, and people generally at those lights.
Evelyn, it's Evelyn.
Kia ora. Look, thanks, Doug, because the issue about the parking I thought was reasonably easily resolved. In actual fact, in my thought processes, thought that people who might be coming from coming from East Road might actually stop on the south side of the road, cross over at a controlled intersection because it'll be safer to cross over, because that's how I operate. I like it, controlled intersections. I live in a world where I walk all the time and cars treat me as fair game if I'm on an uncontrolled intersection. So on that basis, and also the basis that there has been thought given to those people who use cycles to go to sports events, to their schools, to their jobs, all those sorts of things, I'm glad that we are actually reverting to a city that actually values the use of non-vehicular, non-motorised vehicular transport. I'd also think that the traffic calming is quite important, because where I live in South Invercargill, we've put in speed restrictions, but there is no traffic calming apart from that, and people take it that it's time to speed up because you're going through a traffic light. So I think the message that we're trying to send is not just that there is a controlled intersection, but that actually you do need to be more aware that the road is not just for cars or trucks, it is for people who walk and people who are on scooters, whatever. I don't have any opposition to it, and I think it's going to be one of those things which will become more common as we upgrade our city intersections, because we do know how bad our stats are for intersection collisions and incidents. And if we as a council can set an example by how we take care of the design, then we are telling our citizens something about what they need to be doing. So I will be supportive of this. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other? Yes, Peter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug, the traffic flows there, you said you've conducted, or the staff have conducted the numbers of traffic in a 24-hour period. What's the east to west on Yarra Street? What's the traffic count there in a 24-hour period?
6,000.
Sorry?
Around 6,000.
6,000, that's east
Yarrow Street.
west. What about north to south on Lindisfarne?
I have to recall this one, so it was a while back since the first report. I think 1,500.
Yeah, thank you.
But I can confirm that for you.
Yeah, that's near enough, thank you.
Anything else, Peter?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Yeah. Is anybody get any other questions or? Okay. So look, there are clearly two schools of thought. I think we, at the last meeting, approved option one, so we will not revisit that. The question is whether we're talking about option one with a platform or option one without a platform. And how I suggest we approach that is that I'll take a motion for with a platform first. If that gets up, then that's resolved the matter. if it does not get up, then it might be somebody wants to
Yeah.
move that. You know, somebody might want to move
Yeah.
without a platform, but we'll take the with platform first. Evelyn.
I was going to move it, Mr Chair.
Oh, were you? Okay.
I will.
I'll second it.
Could you
Mr.
read
Chair.
that out, what it's going to be?
Sorry, say that again.
Could you read out what that motion is?
So the motion is to approve option 1 with a platform.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a third. Are you amending one of the two that's up?
I'm sorry, okay.
Adding
So we can receive the report, but the second approves the design of option 1, this engagement within a fit around furniture with a platform. Okay. So Evelyn moved
happy
it.
with that.
You're seconding it. All those in favour, raise their hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I don't think that gets up, but we'll see what that one does. So does anybody want to move without a platform? Thank you, Grant, and seconded by Peter.
Where's the time?
So this option now becomes without a platform. So all those in favour put their hands up, which I think is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is a clear majority, 7, which is a clear majority. So we have approved option 1 without a platform. Okay, thank you. So that brings us to tab 9, the Regional Land Transport Plan.
Have we received the report, Mr. Chair?
I'm sorry?
Have we received the report? Have you done
Okay,
that?
will someone move that we receive the report?
I will.
Okay, thank you. And
Second.
Trish has seconded. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So I think that completes that item. Takes us to tab 9, the Regional Land Transport Plan. Now I think, Doug, am I right in saying that the question that's asked in this is whether council wishes you to prepare a submission?
Mr Chairman, yes, that's correct. If I can just go through what the changes are within the midterm review, what's been
Yeah, no,
proposed.
I just wanted to get to it. The question is whether we're not approving any particular change. It's whether and then that submission will be brought back to council for approval. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So
The RLTP, the Regional Land Transport Plan, has a normal 6-year cycle. Mid-term of that 6-year cycle, there is an opportunity to review it, and this is where we're at the moment. A review has been done. Our RLTP is a combined Otago and Southland plan. Invercargill City plays a small part in that rather large plan. At the moment, Invercargill doesn't have any large projects within the RLTP. It's really just maintenance and repairs and so on, and business as usual sort of matters. For the midterm review, the priorities have been amended from the RLTP, and I'll go for them very, very briefly. The old investment, they've changed the priorities with wording rather than intent, so it's a subtle change. So the old investment priorities were to address network deficiencies, and this has become enhanced maintenance and resilience. Essentially means the same thing, but it has a slightly different lens on it. Another investment priority was target high-risk areas, and this really is essentially about crashes and making things safe, and that hasn't really changed. It's a safety and well-being focus, so we're talking about a community-wide well-being. And the last one is to invest to create genuine mode change. So that has been changed to optimise to an efficient and accessible network through enhanced mode change. So we're talking about giving people more choice. Again, the intent hasn't changed, it's just the wording has changed. In terms of where ICC sits, nothing in the midterm review directly affects what we do. Our funding remains the same for now. This is, of course, and you will have noticed that the government's draft GPS came out yesterday, which we are feverishly working through at the moment. So that is an overriding policy statement that we need to take account of in Otago and Southland. I don't believe that there's going to be any major effect on the current RLTP or the midterm review, but that remains to be seen because we will be reviewing that, obviously. So I believe that ICC can put together a submission that essentially recommends adopting the RLTP as it stands now.
okay. Thank you. So we're not actually approving the submission at this stage, but we're just approving that we ask you to make a submission. But nevertheless, we can have discussion on that. So are there any questions of Doug on that? I gotta say, I've never seen so many 3 and 4 letter acronyms in my life in that paper. It was a real struggle, but I mean, they are what they are. Anyway, any questions? Yep, Grant.
Yeah. So Doug, can you just sort of take me through it in a bit more detail? So what's the benefit that ratepayers would see? Like, how do they get affected by this program? So it's a paper that guides investment.
The Regional Land Transport Plan?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
And in the roading infrastructure within our jurisdiction, so it doesn't exclude State Highway 1 to Bluff.
Doesn't exclude.
It doesn't include.
It does include it in the RLTP, but it's not our purview.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a good point. So through this process, do we have any ability to influence what the government may decide on investment in State Highway 1 between Invercargill and Bluff?
No, we can certainly talk with our colleagues at Waka Kotahi, but they have their own process that they use.
Yeah, but you wouldn't do it through this process?
No.
Okay. Okay, so really the outcomes that ratepayers would receive is that if we support the plan, which I think she's saying we can, we would look to achieve through investment some of those goals that have been slightly changed by the current government, which is alternative modes of transport, maintenance, and I've forgotten what the third one was.
Genuine choice.
Yeah. Okay. So then, how does that? You're coming to us with a paper around public transport. Do you see that the two will come together?
Oh, certainly. Because this is a draft for comment. At the moment, the GPS is a draft for comment, so that's a side issue from what we're doing here. This RLTP is really just to confirm that we're happy with the direction that was set.
Yeah, but isn't public transport a part of an alternative choice strategy?
Yes, completely. Yeah.
So therefore, don't they sort of connect in?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, yeah. And public transport forms part of that plan.
Yeah, so you think that what you're thinking through around public transport would connect in with this plan and we would achieve better outcomes for ratepayers through the two?
Absolutely, it aligns directly with one of the major objectives.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Grant, could I the point you were making about the Bluff Highway?
Yeah.
Which I think we would all accept as in poor condition, and it might be that we would feel that the announcement that government made yesterday, I think, of was it $20 billion for 15 projects, none of them south of Waitaki, is disappointing. And that we as a council ought to respond in some formal way to that. I see Evelyn, I'll kill you in a second. So I don't know if you're going to make a comment on those, but Evelyn, I will too.
Yeah, it's me playing the old violin, the same song again. I think it's important that every time we are doing this, we just don't accept that we're being told that there is nothing for us.
Yeah,
I think we should be saying that this is really important and urgent. It's not just, this is a lifeline.
Are you talking about Bluff?
We are talking about State Highway 1 to Bluff, and this is an important lifeline. So why we keep missing out, I think we can't be passive, even in this thing, which is just responding to, a midway assessment. We should be saying that yet again we're missing out, yet again an important lifeline for this community in the event of an emergency is really in a risky situation, and what are they going to do about it? Because I don't understand when they're evaluating how it keeps being ignored. And I think that as the council, as the TA with responsibility, we need to be saying it to anybody who would listen, and every opportunity that talks about a road and talks about funding, we should be saying so. So, that's my 5 cents worth. But
yes, any of this report, does it refer to any of the external, like Curran Road and everything, the speed limits at all these new low speed limit
It's not generally part
No.
of that, so it's a funding
Not part
exercise.
of it?
Yeah, this is investment in infrastructure.
Yeah, this is investment
It's an
priorities.
infrastructure piece.
Okay. Ria, you're next.
Doug, maybe it might be helpful for councillors if they knew a bit more about how the funding from Wakatahi to the state highways actually works, and within the RT, within that committee, it is big projects being pitted against smaller projects, and it's rateable evaluations from outside. It's not how far we push; it's where the funding takes us.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the way it's the investment that we essentially for big projects, you have to develop a business case, and that business case has to go through a fairly long and winded process to gain funding. With the opportunity to gain funding, and it goes through an investment method that Wakatahi uses to prioritise projects across the country. And so the bigger the number, not in terms of dollars, but the bigger the number of benefits, the higher the priority becomes. So it's about the underlying work that goes under that funding application.
Yeah, and it's not that we're not singing from our song sheet that we need this. It's how it's put it up and how it's rated with other areas. So, it's like that they hand us what they will agree to fund, and we've got to then go for the second round, the third round. So it's not that we're not trying hard. It's just that it's not the highest position for their funding to go to straight away.
Leslie.
Exactly.
Yep.
No, I will come back to you, Erin, but Leslie first.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I was just going to make the comment, and it's in line with what Reverend Cook and Councillor Bond have said. I've got no objection at all to council continuing to lobby hard for State Highway 1 to Bluff, but it's not the particular recommendations we've got in front of us.
Right.
I'm happy to have the conversation because I think it's important, but it's not, the recommendations in front of us are quite separate from the issue of State Highway 1 to Bluff. So I'm certainly very keen for council to suggest that the acting mayor makes a statement after yesterday's announcement on that particular issue. But
I think I just did actually, since we've been live streamed.
but a more formal written one if you wanted to do so. But I'm not sure that we can work it into the recommendations.
No, I agree with you, but it was a convenient place to vehicle. Yeah.
And
Erin, do you want
I'm very happy to suggest you make a written statement, Mr.
I was just going to note that Doug and I did meet with our counterparts from Dunedin from Wakatahi yesterday. The discussion of the Bluff Highway did come up in that discussion, and we did obviously advocate for the fact that Invercargill are not seeing sufficient investment into State Highway 1 there. What we were advised is that currently within the program they are looking to do work within the next 12 months to raise the road at that area approaching the estuary, but at this stage that is the only work that they have programmed along there.
And picking Leslie's point that it doesn't actually, so we'll come back to this in a minute, but we do always feel like the bridesmaid, never the bride, don't we, as far as getting money for that road. So, Michael, could I ask you, what is the appropriate way for us to formally raise that?
Through yourself, Chair, the first point is actually through the discussions that the GM has outlined just before, which is through those discussion paths, but we can put a letter through to the Minister in relation to that as well, advocating on behalf of Invercargill. But our first protocol is in relation to the discussions.
I think, watching how other people might react, but I think a letter would be appropriate because you suspect that there's an element of squeaky wheel in these things, that we just silently play nice in the, crib, but others don't. So Grant.
Yeah, if I can just comment on, like I don't want to miss the opportunity to agree with Evelyn. But I think it's more important than just Invercargill City and the Bluff community. It's actually a regional asset. You think about the goods that travel up and down that, from the whole of Southland, and I think we've got to make a very strong business case to the government and be supported by all the mayors of Southland because everyone benefits. And so I wouldn't like to just see us go and write a letter ourselves. I think we should aggregate up a very short summary of the business case, why it's important to the Bluff community, some of the risks to that road currently, and the importance economically and get the support of the likes of Southport and Richardson Group and some of our other big users of that. Because if you go and talk to them, they will tell you it's not a safe road to drive on. And so for many reasons, we're going to knock on the door real hard in a collective way. And I think getting the 4 mayors, or 3 plus 1.5 or whatever, to support that, I think is the way we make that case.
So let's think about how we approach that. I think the only problem I would have with that, Grant, I mean, it sounds absolutely right, but I'll guarantee there'll be another half a dozen roads on the list by the time you get around the other mayors.
We'll get
So somebody was there anybody? Alex.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just really wanted to speak in support of Grant's suggestion there, but also for councillors' frame of reference. When I used to sit on this committee a number of years back, what are the things that would was being thrown around, and not necessarily for Otago Southland, but a QLDC example was the bridge, that massive new bridge, the one-way system bridge. That was the squeakiest wheel that eventually got the funding because it was the impact on the local economy, the populace, the amount of people, the tourism. So it became a priority project rather than
And a finance minister for Dipman helped.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's the example of the types of projects, or that sort of thing that is funded by that mechanism, because it's
a good example.
Yeah, so not that's the
So I think that your paper probably gets somewhat hijacked for convenience, but but have you got anything else you want to add on the paper itself?
Not at all. I mean, Mr. Chairman, everybody raises very salient and good points. However, the focus of this is whether or not to submit, or if we submit, should we support it? And because there's nothing tangibly negative towards what we did have, certainly, but I think it is an opportunity to perhaps raise issues that concern us in a regional manner. I am talking with my colleagues in SDC in the same matter. They have also decided not to submit in terms of other than giving support. However, I think given the good points raised, I think we should add something to it, add a bit of value to it.
Okay, so anyway, yes, Leslie.
I was just going to say, happy that we add a number 3 recommendation, and in that case.
And do you want to wordsmith it for us?
Invest in Bluff Road.
That the opportunity is taken to advocate for further investment in State Highway 1 to Bluff.
Invercargill to Bluff.
Invercargill Bluff.
Would that cover it enough for you to include it, Doug? If I may ask you for a little advice here.
Through the chair, yes, Councillor.
Okay.
And perhaps, particularly emphasising the economic benefits to the entire region.
Investment strategy.
Which then would give Doug the ability to talk to the other managers of the region, perhaps for support. If you add for the entire region, that will allow Doug to talk to the other regional partners.
Wait, no, it's like, you need better glasses.
Somebody's spelling's as good as mine. Okay. So can we take all 3 of those together?
You need the word with in there, Liz, after Invercargill, comma, with emphasis. Yeah.
So thank you. You moved 1 to 3, didn't you?
Yeah, and I'll then move 1 to 3.
You move 1 to 3, and seconded by Ria. Any other discussion? All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. So takes us to tab 10, the exchange of airport land for road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm joined by my colleague Here, guys, who will be addressing this paper from a property point of view.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Doug, thanks. So this matter came to our attention from Invercargill Airport doing a review of their emergency access into the airport land, noting that they had some encroachments. When they wanted to change their access, it was fully contained within the roadway. As a result of that, they have come to us with a proposal to exchange their portion of land upon which our walk cycleway has recently been formed in exchange for a portion of unformed legal road which we would stop on their behalf and amalgamate.
Okay. Any questions, Ria?
Can I just seek clarification? So when we put in our walkway, cycleway, that wasn't actually our land to put that on in the first place?
That is correct. It's on airport land with a proposal that it was going to be with an easement.
So we need to fix that quickly, right?
The easement was always the intention. However, this would then vest that walkway as road and be managed under the road corridor.
Right. Gosh.
You okay, Ria?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get one question and then I'll take Alex. Am I right in thinking that the reason that we are paying the costs is because there's an unequal area being swapped? We are gaining more land than we're giving them, and
That's
therefore we
correct.
have agreed to pay the costs involved in that.
Yes,
and
Mr.
what kind of costs are we talking about? Is it a few thousand or a few tens of thousands? Or
So initially we would have to survey the easement area anyway. That would be a council cost, and create the easement, do all the legal process around that. An estimated cost would probably be $10,000 to $15,000 all up for the whole process,
okay,
including.
and that seems a fair amount for the amount of additional land that we're gaining through it.
I would agree. Yes.
Okay. No, I was asking the question actually, but that, in your view, that's a fair
Yes, Mr. Chair.
swap. Alex, you asked a question.
Not necessarily a question. I was actually just going to be happy to move the report. I think that there's absolute logic and merit as to why the exchange would occur, and the reasoning why they need it as well, and it benefits us. I think that's
Okay, is there a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Trish. Are there any other discussion? And if not, all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So we've actually, I'm assuming, apologies, but I'm assuming that you were moving all three of those.
recommendations. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and you were too, Trish, so that's fine. So I think we've done that, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that takes us to the activities report, and Erin, are you speaking to that, or?
I am, thank you, Chair, but I'm happy to take the report as read and receive any questions.
It looks as though. Grant.
Yeah, firstly, Erin, thanks for your description of the wastewater challenge that we got on in February. You know, I think you've highlighted the issue there really, really well. Be interested to know what the solutions are, but I don't expect you to give them today. But it just highlights the sort of problem we have with the merging of sort of more increasing rainfall events through climate change and how it impacts our sort of wastewater, doesn't it? So I think everyone needs to focus in on that piece of commentary.
I think it's also the piece around cities continuing their asset management maturity journey,
that's right.
and around making sure that we're making the most of the infrastructure that we already have, and that it's working as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, but I think it highlights it just with the data and the way you presented it, the issue that we've got, and we've got to keep thinking of it. With respect, I do have a question with the Waihopa Alliance branding. The cost of that, did that come out of the contract, or?
That's right. So when the contractors tendered, as you'd probably not be surprised with most new contracts when they start, there's a large element of new fleet that comes into those contracts, and there's a branding exercise usually for the contractor to brand those vehicles as their own fleet. That's part of the tendered costs when we go through that process. In this instance, rather than simply branding the vehicles with the contractors branding, there was a conscious decision to take a partnership approach and do a joint branding exercise for the team around the Waihopai Alliance, not dissimilar to what you would see with teams on the Milford Alliance or on the Aspiring Highways Alliance.
Can I ask a second question? What was the cost of the branding?
I couldn't tell you as we've not had visibility of it. It's paid for by the contractor.
But at the end of the day, it comes out of the contract, doesn't it?
It does, but it's part of the overhead that is tendered as part of the tender price. So we don't see a breakdown of that. It's simply part of the corporate overhead.
Thanks.
Alan?
Yeah, just wondering, Erin, is there any thought given to curbside rubbish collection? I know we've talked about it before, certainly around the Otatara region, like Currans Road, West Plains School Road. Because I see, you know, if I look at page 100 of board books here, you do so many things, you know, and you know, you report on so many things, but I never ever see that happened or done, you know, and it's pretty bad.
There was a discussion. Are you talking about roadside litter, or are you talking
roadside litter?
Roadside litter. It is something that we do have a program for roadside litter, which is undertaken by our roading contractor, which Matt may be able to confirm for me includes Otatara. So if we're finding that we think that we're getting feedback that we're not doing enough in that space, absolutely we can just provide a request for service into the contractors to provide additional attention to particular areas.
Evelyn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question about the stormwater. Because this, you know, it seems to be becoming more common with the extreme weather events that we're starting to experience, and the fact that we are encouraging people to do more infill housing with the subsequent hardening off of the ground, is our stormwater system under-designed for how quickly water now comes into our system through rainwater events and things like that? Because I'm just really mindful that this seems to be a much more common reporting to us than it was a while ago. And as we're looking forward and planning, should we be looking at engineering more stormwater capacity rather than less?
In this instance, where our concern is around the capacity of the wastewater network, where we've got stormwater coming into the wastewater network. From what I can see, not having been here historically, it's not something that's new for Invercargill. It's probably just one of those things that we're talking to council about a little bit more and talking to the public about more. And that's, I think, around that, the community understanding the value of the Three Waters networks and what it actually does, which has come about as part of the reform conversations. In general, across the network, you know, there's always some areas that perform better than others, but in general, across the network, we're quite lucky in that we have quite a significantly large stormwater network. I think that speaks to the fact that Invercargill was always designed to be a larger city, which means that we haven't taken up the additional capacity as yet that was built into the system for that. That being said, there's definitely some areas where we do have system constraints that we need to work on, but it's not something that I would see us as needing to do a significant investment right across the city. It's more around isolated investments in those areas that we're seeing not performing sufficiently.
So as a follow-up to that, Mr. Chair, are we sometime in the next foreseeable future, say 9 months or so, a year, are we going to see some conversation about where those pockets are, what might be done to change the amount of lack of capacity, shall we say, of those particular areas?
Yes, so one of the things that's been proposed in the draft long-term plan is around improving our stormwater modelling for the city. We have got a very, very basic stormwater model. There's an asset management piece of work that we need to do to get a more mature model so that we can make exactly those sorts of investment decisions with good information.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Leslie.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Mine was also a stormwater infiltration question and may have been answered, but I'll just note it anyway in case there's anything else Erin can say. As a South Invercargill resident, the flooding at Turnbull Thompson Park was drawn to my attention yet again, and I note we've said further work is planned in the coming years. Do we have a timing on the coming years?
I think when we're talking about the coming years, we're talking about the overall infiltration exercise will be one that's going to take time. We're obviously prioritising Turnbull Thompson at the front of that piece of work.
Have we got any idea how quickly there might be something?
I'd need to come back to you on that around an exact time frame.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions on the activities report, will somebody move that we receive it? Thank you, Trish, and seconded by Grant. Any other discussion? And if not, all those say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the public papers, I think. So thank you very much, everybody on live stream, for joining us. And we have to leave you now, so cheers.
I'll move into public excluded.
Thank you. Evelyn seconded. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thank you.